one of the most important roles of my job is storytelling. Is, I do all the science, but how do we communicate it with others? And that's on every level. So from the general public to a classroom full of students to a paper, a manuscript we might write in a professional journal. And in every one of those cases, we have to tell a story. And the way you get good at that, the way you get good at writing and storytelling is by practicing. And so doing the podcast, writing articles for the website, even if they're small, just constantly working that muscle, that creative storytelling muscle, I think is really, really helpful and you also see how to put a project together, right? You have goals, you make an outline, you organize it, you do it, you adjust things on the fly. And that all applies to the work that we do. I don't really I wouldn't say any formal training in storytelling. So it's an interest that I've had, but I think honestly, it's just doing it, just practicing over and over and reading a lot. So the more you read, you see that the techniques that people are using, even if they're unconsciously using. So, I mean, anything you read, if you're into science fiction, fantasy, if you're into history, if you like reading the newspaper, like honestly, any of that is storytelling. Watching TV, watching movies. That's, I watch movies and I think, oh, how did they put these scenes together? I try to put myself in the director's shoes or in the writer's shoes and say, how did they decide this should happen? And then, oh, wow, and then they revealed this thing. You can do that in your science too.
What's the reason behind it? Why do you embrace this kind of outreach? What is burning inside you?
I think passion is the number one thing, is because people see your passion and they're inspired. And that level of inspiration can vary. So it can be someone says, oh, wow, I see this woman and maybe she looks like me and makes me want to go and do science. Awesome. Or it could be like, wow, she's really passionate about this. It must be, it must be important. Now I just have this little place in my brain that says there's some important, interesting stuff related to geology. Even if that's unconsciously, even that's enough. We want to get into the zeitgeist, get this idea into people's minds that science matters, seeking out truths matters, working with people in other places matters, understanding people who don't look like you or who don't live near you matters. And just even if it's unconscious, that little thing in their brain, that stored memory of having seen me or someone else say these things passionately. Next time maybe there's a bill on the Senate floor having to do with funding for science, maybe they're just that much more likely to push it through.
What is the most important part of your education?
I did my PhD in the UK, and I'm from the United States, obviously. I did my PhD in the UK and traveled quite a bit around Europe. I lived in Italy for a little while, France for a little while, and traveled to places in Asia, South America, all over the world. That has been, I think, the defining element of what my perspective is on the world. I grew so much as a person, meeting with and working with and living with people from all different walks of life, that it opened my eyes to different opinions, different cultures, different way of doing things.
Which thinker has had the greatest influence in your life?
The first person that comes to mind is actually a guy who I'm now working with. His name is Gordon Moore, and he's an experimental petrologist. But he was my mentor when I was an undergrad. He's one of those people who teaches you so much more than just the science and how to do it. We had office spaces in the lab, so I would just wander into his office anytime and sit down and bother him and ask him stupid questions. And he would stop what he was doing and turn and take the time and talk to me and challenge me and listen to my ideas and treat me like a peer.
What's the question you would most like ask to others?
The first things I'll usually ask about a person is about where they're from. Because like I said, I love this idea of you are the way you are because of your history, because of how you've grown up and interacted with the world. So plus, it's you get to travel to this cool new place. Just what's it like where you grew up?
Kayla, what do you doubt most?
The most doubt I'm feeling is on our ability to change as a species. My biggest worry and doubt is whether or not we can actually affect real systematic change.
What is your demon?
Finding balance. My demon is balance, I think. I've never been a very balanced person. I do a lot because I want to do everything, and that's not always good for me. And it makes me suffer in other areas of my life.
What illusion do you suffer from?
Is the idea of failure, I guess, or idea of measuring success. I'm always trying to reevaluate what success means, and I can tell myself that I'm successful in one way or another, but actually making myself believe it is another thing. So there's some imposter syndrome there.
What are you proud of?
I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of all of it. I'm proud of my science. I think I've done careful, like slow, careful, methodical science. I'm proud of my communication work. I'm proud to have been a part of this, particularly that documentary in the DR Congo. I'm proud of the message that we could create and the wonderful humanistic vision that we could put forth.
So NASA, track movie, science outreach, where's your heart?
In the end, it's in the science. The thing, like the thing that gets me going, that really keeps me up at night, is like thinking about, oh, how could I do this differently in the lab? Oh, that's a good idea. Or like I wake up in the middle of the night. Like one time, I wrote an entire an abstract for a conference. I wrote the entire thing in my head in the middle of the night, and then I had to get up and write it.
What would you like to be the legacy that you leave behind?
I want my legacy to be creating things that are useful to other people. So I want my legacy to be someone who was insightful, intelligent, and created these wonderful things to leave for others to use.
Any regrets so far?
I've done stupid things in my life that I regret doing, but mostly I just celebrate the path that I've taken, and yeah, that's it.
Do you ever think about death?
Yes, death scares the crap out of me. Other people dying scares me a lot. I lost my brother a couple of years ago, and he was the first person close to me that I ever lost. And I loved my brother; he was an amazing human. And but his death has completely changed my view of the entire world.
Kayla, what is the meaning of life?
Like I have an answer that anyone cares about for that. I don't know. The answer is I don't know, and that's the journey, right? I don't know. I don't even know if I care about the meaning of life. Is there a meaning? Some people say the meaning is the journey that we're on to discover the meaning. But why should life be about discovering the meaning of life? I don't know. Doesn't really resonate with me. It's about just, I don't know, what's the meaning of life? Just live. It's the hardest thing to do. Just live.